The U.S.-Iran ceasefire, to use apprentice terminology, appears to have been fired. That means the U.S. no longer feels bound by it and will strike Iranian targets as it sees fit. Threats against President Trump have increased and become more specific in recent days, and that inevitably adds to the sense of Washington's irritation, putting it mildly, and impatience with the Iranian regime. That is a regime, we should note, that is in theory led by Mojtaba Khamenei, elevated to supreme leader after the death of his father Ali Khamenei early in the war. Iranians buried Ali Khamenei this week with a highly choreographed procession and state-organized grieving. But Mojtaba hasn't been seen in public since his elevation, not even at his father's funeral. What actual role Mojtaba plays in Iranian decision-making remains a mystery, as does any potential divisions within senior Iranian ranks as to how to proceed in this conflict with America. Trump said today Iran is eager for a deal and called to restart talks. Trump said he agreed to that, but maintained that the ceasefire is over. What now to haggle over? With whom and how? Key questions all defy easy answers. Mediators are shuttling across the region, and in diplomatic argot, the phones are being worked. And all that appears to be on the table right now is the fate of the Strait of Hormuz. And there's also the matter of Trump's safety. The president said earlier this week at the NATO summit that he was Iran's #1 target and had been for some time. Security concerns led the president to swap out Air Force One planes for added safety and communication capability. The Wall Street Journal reported today that Israel provided fresh intelligence about a new Iranian plot against Trump. The president denied that to the New York Post this morning. Trump told the Post, quote, "No, Israel came up with nothing. I've been on their list for a long time," unquote. Trump added that he recently left instructions behind should Iran kill him. Quote, "If anything happens, just literally bomb them at levels they've never seen before. It's the way life is, you know," Trump said, adding, quote, "I hope you'll miss me," unquote. With that as a chilling backdrop to diplomacy, we turn with confidence, as we always do, to our chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation moderator, Margaret Brennan. Margaret, what are your sources telling you about what's going on?
Well, Major, it was great planning for you to lay out all the divisions within the Iranian leadership, because that is really kind of at the heart of why it seems there are groups talking past each other. Well, what we know right now is that the U.S. has paused its bombing campaign that had been targeting radar systems and satellites and railways. And Trump administration officials just delivered a briefing to a small number of reporters. Our Jennifer Jacobs was monitoring that and shared that it was described right now as a wait-and-see moment over the next couple of days. We hope Iran will stop shooting at shipping vessels and stop bombing our partners in the region, those Arab states that host U.S. troops. What I know from diplomatic sources is that tomorrow in Oman, there is going to be a key meeting. The foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, is supposed to fly to Oman to speak to their leadership and try to hammer out some kind of new version of an agreement of Article 5 in that Memorandum of Understanding. Remember that thing? It lasted less than 3 weeks, but that is actually the document they're going back to try to iron out this really big discrepancy over control of the waterways that lead to the Strait of Hormuz. Some goes through Omani territory, some goes through Iranian territory. The Revolutionary Guard has wanted to charge fees. The Revolutionary Guard has wanted to control that passageway and basically exert control over the Strait of Hormuz, which the Trump administration had thought they had negotiated them out of doing in that MOU. So that is the reason that there was this recent flare-up in violence. The Trump administration is saying, let's get back to talking. But it brings us back to that bigger question of, can the people being sent to negotiate actually deliver some of the hardliners within their own government, the same guys who started firing on ships?
And I understand, Margaret, you have some new reporting on U.S. efforts to, if possible, bring a resolution to the long-running war, Russia-Ukraine.
Well, if possible, it's at least more pressure. And this is a big, major about-face for President Trump if he goes through with what he has said he is going to do. We have learned through reporting, and I've spoken directly with the two authors of a significant bill that would put financial penalties on the biggest buyers of Russian oil. That would be China, and that would be India. Senator Graham and Senator Blumenthal, this is a bipartisan effort, have been pushing for a very long time, and they have now been told by the White House that President Trump is ready to go forward with putting this in place. This would mean it'd be an act of Congress. This would mean that they would have the votes to actually pass this through, and that President Trump has given them the green light to do so. Now, frankly, they didn't need his permission because at one point they had a veto-proof majority, but they're waiting for the go. And in recent days, President Trump has done two other significant things. He said that he's going to allow for Ukraine to license the production of Patriot interceptors to take down incoming Russian missiles, something that the manufacturer of them has not publicly acknowledged yet. And he also said that he is going to sign off on a deal to buy Ukrainian drones, something President Zelensky has been pushing hard for. They've got really sophisticated technology because they've been fighting these Iranian drones the Russians have been using. Now, does the U.S. follow through? That's a big open question, but this was a significant pro-Ukraine position President Trump has taken. And so we are watching this space carefully. We should point out Ukraine has been really changing the tide on the battlefield, and President Trump has been frustrated. Vladimir Putin is not doing anything to negotiate an end to the war.
When Margaret Brennan says watching it closely, you can be sure that will be followed up on Face the Nation this Sunday on CBS. Margaret Brennan, as always, thank you so much. I want to bring in former CIA officer and Marine Corps veteran Elliot Ackerman. Elliot, I'm not trying to be flippant here, but it seems like there's a Disney movie that might apply. Honey, Who Shrunk the MOU? Because if it's really now just to Article 5, then we are really only talking about the Strait of Hormuz. We're not talking about Iranian nuclear material or nuclear ambitions. We're not talking about ballistic missile systems. We're not talking about support for proxies in the region. We're just talking about the Strait.
I know, but we've seen it's been a huge issue and a huge point of leverage that the Iranians have discovered. And we see at every single juncture they're trying to maximize that to advance their negotiating position. And so this is just the latest iteration of posturing between the Iranian regime and the Trump administration.
And when the Iranians can reduce the conversation just to that Article 5, that appears, correct me if I'm wrong, to be kind of, at least for the moment, a tactical win for them.
I think it absolutely is, and it's a visible win, and it's a way to reverse whatever progress it would seem the Trump administration has made to bringing about a peaceful resolution to this conflict, or at least a ceasefire. And so we look at the last, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, 170 new U.S. strikes, and that puts the president in an awkward position of, he's touting his peace initiatives, and then a week later he's launching new strikes.
And, Elliot, for the average American who sort of comes in and comes out of this story, they will remember, because President Trump said it so often in the beginning of this war, we've decimated Iran's capability to do X, Y, and Z, and yet we're still striking targets, and the Iranians still fire something back. So they're not totally out of this game.
They're not, and the Iranians are very astute. They understand that a huge part of war is politics, and that the politics of this don't look good for President Trump, and they're going to just keep pushing that button over and over again.
Surviving with what little they have to make mischief wherever they can. Is that a way to describe it?
Absolutely. And they've been very effective at that. And I think the Trump administration should anticipate that they'll keep doing it.
Tactically, what are the U.S. options to stop that?
Well, I think we're seeing the tactical options, which are just to continue launching these strikes into Iran to send them the message that, if you do this, if you reopen hostilities in the Straits, you are going to pay a price. But to the top of your segment, there's a challenge in that Iranian decision-making does not seem to be centralized.
We don't have real insight into who's making the decisions and who is the ultimate decision-maker and guarantor of whatever is agreed to.
Right, which makes it tough to understand what our points of leverage are inside the Iranian regime.
Elliot Ackerman, great stuff as always. I appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.